Well, hey, friends, it's Jeff and Beth McCord. We're glad that you've joined us, and we're so thankful that you've pre ordered the book. That's so awesome.
Here it is.
Yeah, that's right. So, we know that you haven't gotten the copy of your book yet, and that's okay. But we wanted to give you a very special gift of a conversation between Beth and I, and me really just interviewing Beth about the topic or answering the question, Am I enough as a mom? And that question shows up in a lot of different ways for moms, for parents in general.
Yeah.
Am I good enough parent? You can think of it as like the two. Am I helpful enough? Do I know enough? It shows up in a wide variety of ways, but we wanted to talk about shame and guilt related to motherhood and what to do whenever we have these negative messages. Well, the great thing about the Enneagram is that it helps us to understand that we have a unique interpretation or answer to that question that really is the gateway to us experiencing some of the joy and forgiveness and freedom that we have in our relationship with Jesus. So, but how in your life, how did this idea of mom guilt or this question, am I a good enough mom? Am I enough for my child? How did it show up in your life?
So I would say for me as a type 9, the peaceful accommodator, it would show up. I would hear all of the advice from books, from teachers, from friends that, were already moms ahead of me or older women, um, best practices. And this is back in the day before all of the podcast and the blogs. Our
Mhm.
kids are in their 20s now. Um, But I was trying to live up to all of these standards and honestly to make these people that probably never even knew me happy.
So you had a lot of real reasons in your mind based on the people that you knew of why you weren't enough because you weren't like them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and even like the things that my mom had passed down, that she would either model or say was the right way of parenting. But then we had friends, I remember like when we were at seminary, a mom in our building, she was very definitive on the right way to parent, and she loved to give me the advice on how to do that. And so I tried,
What
and
type do you think she was?
that's what I was trying to think.
I remember her feeling very one-ish.
Yeah, I could see very one-ish with a
Kind
lot of
of a
two.
little too, and
Yeah.
because I mean, she
The
really was
advice.
helpful and
Mhm. Yeah, she
but
was.
very assertive.
Mhm,
Yeah,
and there was a right way to do it, probably like a social one with a
yeah.
lot of two in her. Um, and I was just like, "Just tell me what to do, like, I don't know what's going on," and especially as a 9, like,
Because you
I just
carried yourself that way, that you
yes,
needed help.
I carried myself in a way of like, "Yeah, share with me all of your wisdom.
Yeah.
I will listen, I will accommodate, I will submit." And I wasn't at a healthy place. I was very anxious. I was a young mom. I had Nate when I was 23 years old and Libby when I was 25. And I really just felt like I wasn't enough. And so I'm sure people picked that up and they were like, "Oh, here, I'll help you." And I was like, "Sure, great, I'll follow you." But then I never felt like I could truly live up to whatever their standards or guidance was. And so I just walked around always anxious and always feeling like I wasn't enough.
Um, you had an experience. I remember us having a conversation in St. Louis around that time because previously, before we went to seminary, you had read the book Baby Wise,
Mhm.
and it you were not some follower of Baby Wise necessarily, like it,
Mhm.
but it created for you this expectation of what kind of parent to be,
Right.
and that was very burdensome to you.
Well, at first, it was comforting. So when you read it, you're like, "Oh, this is the way to do it. Awesome. Yes, I will just do it that way." But life doesn't go that way, right? Like your kids don't eat every 3 hours
You may be
perfectly.
able to fit into the paradigm, your child may not.
They may not want to, they may not, maybe they can't. There's lots of things go on and
But that meant that was just another bit of evidence to say you're not good enough as a mom,
right.
and it kept showing up. One of the things you share in the book, as well as we've shared on our podcast, is that you made a super mom in your head. Comparison was a
Yeah.
sign of your own shame as a mom.
Yes. So when Nate and Libby were really little, I remember specifically being out with a lot of moms, young moms, and seeing all of their great qualities and not really even thinking they're putting their best foot forward. Like, no, this is how they are all the time. And thinking that, but knowing how I am behind closed doors. So it's like, well, they're amazing and I'm not. And I remember telling you, oh, Jane is this way and Susan's this way and Natalie is this way. And you were like, Beth, you've literally created this big super mom. You've constructed the super mom out of all the best characteristics of these moms, which is great, but that woman doesn't exist. And I was really taken aback, like, wait, what? But that's who we should be.
Oh, the shoulds.
But then I was like, wait, that is true. Like, and then you were like, Beth, behind closed doors, they're suffering too. They're going through the same thing that you're going through. They're lonely. They're stuck. They're afraid. They're feeling shame. And it was so hard to believe that because out on the playground, they looked amazing and happy and thriving. But when you said that, it just opened my eyes enough to have compassion for them
Mhm.
and to be at the beginning stages of not comparing myself. And one of our counselors, she said, Beth, comparing only isolates you because either you're pushing the person up and exalting them or you're pushing them down because you're over them, you're better than them. Either way, you're pushing people out of your life.
Yeah.
And moms often journey motherhood alone, not because they want to, but because sometimes they're just isolated at home, but sometimes they don't even realize how they've been pushing people out of their life because in comparison and envy and all those things. And that was definitely true for me.
So in our parenting, what ends up happening with unhealed wounds of our own shaming messages is that we end up reenacting that shame
Mhm.
by aligning with certain principles or beliefs or systems, even communities of people where they're going to help me to be who God wants me to be. But we never live up to it. And it just reinforces the shame that
Mm.
I am not enough.
Yeah.
And there's this I shouldn't say great quote because it's really a sad quote,
Mm.
but it does name the dynamic is that trauma that's not transformed gets transmitted.
Mm.
We pass it on. Beth, how about for you? What were we would call it head trash and
Mhm.
to bring levity to it, but what were some of the negative messages that you had as a type 9 mom?
Yeah. So for me as a mom, of course, I think a lot of moms have the I'm not good enough. But for me, it was, see, my presence doesn't matter, or they're not going to listen to me. No one respects me.
I remember you saying as a young mom, uh, obey my words.
Hmm.
It,
Respect me.
Oh, there was a lot of
Hmm.
the term respect.
And for a type 9 parent, the reason is we feel like the world and even our own head trash is I'm not that important. I don't really matter. But as a parent, you are the authority. You quote unquote need to matter. And you want to instill that in your kids and you want them to respect what you're saying and follow along because it's best for them. But also, when they disobey, or it feels very disrespectful and it just um, validates and confirms that false belief.
How do you think, do you feel like you ever well, I'm sure we all do it, but does anything come to mind for you of how you transmitted some of your negative messages about yourself, but coached in our children?
Oh, yeah, sure, definitely. I think, our kids probably don't speak as maybe assertively or as quickly as maybe other
They had
kids.
no
They couldn't.
they're I mean, with a 6 and 9 parents,
Yeah.
there was no hope for them.
Yeah, so, like,
Sorry, you're
if
on your own and finding your voice.
had they had they been raised in, let's say, a type 3 and a type 8 home,
Whew.
they would have been able to, speak quickly or assertively. I mean, with the 3, not in a disrespectful way, but they could speak quickly and
Yeah,
assertively and get things done. And so, yeah, definitely. I think our kids, I mean, they're definitely more assertive than I am,
sure.
but even in their type 2
Does it
and their
ever make you
6.
uncomfortable with their
Oh,
assertiveness?
absolutely.
Totally uncomfortable with it.
Absolutely.
Like, how can you say that? I mean,
But I'm also proud of them.
oh, absolutely.
It's
Sure.
like for instance, like with Libby being a type 2 and her sometimes having very assertive boundaries, I'm like, wow, that's not something I would do, but man, that's awesome. Like, I'm so proud of her for like doing and saying things and
Yeah.
creating healthy boundaries, and Nate for being courageous and definitive in his own beliefs. And, but yeah, it's very uncomfortable.
So for the rest of our time, why don't we do this? Why don't we walk through the 9 types? You've had some experiences with coaching
Mhm.
various moms, and we're just going to take one message that each type wrestles with, and what do they do about it? What does it look like when they're healthy? What are they beginning to believe or manifest um, in order to overcome that shame?
Yeah. So for the type 1 moms, they're really going to feel that they're doing it wrong. And I mean, a lot of these things people are going to be like, well, that makes like, of course, but
Well, and I would imagine that shows up. It's either the system's wrong, other
mhm,
people are doing it wrong, I'm doing it wrong,
or
or
my,
my child
right.
is doing it wrong.
Yeah. Someone's doing it wrong
Something's wrong.
because there is a right way to do this and it's falling apart somewhere.
Yeah,
Um,
and
and
somebody's bearing the burden of that guilt and shame.
right. And so the inner critic, of course, it kind of depends on their instinctual subtype, but the inner critic is going to be very loud to improve what's going on. But there are some circumstances in parenting that can't be improved immediately, or maybe at all.
I mean, you're not
And
gonna be able to bring heaven down.
right. And so there's that constant feeling of guilt or shame of, but this should be like this, and it's not. So I'm doing something wrong, or bad. And that can be very, very burdensome on
And for
young
everybody,
moms,
so, I
moms.
mean, even if you have a child who's being criticized constantly, it's going to bear the weight of it, but even the parent,
Mhm,
if they're believing they're doing everything wrong, they're not living up to the system. But then the family experiences
mhm.
that shame. They all carry it together because they see one another suffering.
Yeah.
And it leads to messages of shame of I'm not good enough or
Mhm.
I'm not doing it right. But what's the invitation for the one?
Yes, the invitation though of the one is to be, to fully embrace that life is imperfect, and that is part of the perfect beauty of living on this side of heaven, and that God has taken care of us. Everything is being renewed to its perfection, and they can rest in the imperfection of motherhood. And that's, I mean, even just saying it out loud, I'm like, oh, I can see how the type 1 moms are like, yep, nope, not going to do that. Because that's really hard to do. But I would invite the type 1 moms the next time they step outside and they look at nature as it is, not the groomed parts of nature that we mow the lawns and all that stuff, but just nature. You'll look at it and it is perfectly imperfect. The leaves fell wherever they were to fall. The trees fell, like there's things that have died, but it's perfectly imperfect. And the ones know this. They love being in nature. And I hope that they can take a look at that and realize our family life is like that as well. The journey we have as mothers is going to be perfectly imperfect. God created us to be our children's parents. And as we continue to grow and rely on Him, He is working all things for His good and for our good and His glory.
So let's talk about type two.
Okay, so type 2. Okay, so the type 2s are constantly afraid that they're gonna be rejected if they need or ask for help. Moms need a lot of help. Motherhood is really hard, and so they internally have a knowing that they have a need, but they're trying to ignore it and just really be strong and just get it done, because if they ask for help, they're going to think they appear dispensable and incapable and therefore easily rejected
Well, and as I
and
understand it with
selfish.
twos, so it ends up coming out sideways.
Yes.
So they're not directly asking for help, but they're complaining about
How
how much
exhausted.
how exhausted, how much responsibility they have, how
Mhm.
hard it's
No one
it's a
is
lot of self-pity.
grateful. No one is thankful. I never get a break. And so a lot of that is and we talk about, or at least I do, about our Enneagram type, there being a rumble strip, like a rumble strip on the highway that alerts you, wakes you up, like, "Hey, when you hear yourself say this or feel this, that's your alert system to help you know that you're starting to veer off in an unhealthy pattern. Let's come back into a healthier way." So when a type 2 mom is always talking about being exhausted or they're doing so much for others, that is their warning system that they actually need help and they need to ask for help. Now for everyone else, if a type 2 asked me for help, I'd be like, "Yeah, sure, great, thanks so much." But for them, that is super hard and it feels like great shame. So for the twos, I really encourage them to think about what would be rejuvenating or helpful for them in any given season of motherhood and taking the step to actually ask for help.
Yeah. And it just reminds me of Jesus with the last Passover with the disciples
Mm,
and saying to Peter, "Unless I wash your feet."
yeah.
That the twos have to answer that question. Am I going, even Mark 10, for the Son of Man came to serve, not to be served. And for the two, that's tough. What does it mean to be served by Jesus and served by
Well,
others?
what they're usually like is, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna be like Jesus, I'm gonna serve."
I'm gonna be like
It's like, "No, no,
Jesus.
no, no, the whole point is he serves you."
That's right.
We're the ones in need, and we need him, and we need to receive from him.
No, I mean, threes are the perfect moms.
Oh,
They
sure.
just they just get it
They
right.
achieve the best. They really are pretty awesome. But yeah, so threes, there's and for all these types, we could nuance even more things that they struggle with. But the one thing I heard the most from the threes is the fear of what other people are thinking when they or their children are being seen and not at their peak performance or at the highest level of image.
I remember a three mom talking about having put together the schedule for all the things of the weekend. And if that schedule gets broken up by dad or by the kids, that they experience some degree of frustration, maybe even shame of it not working out and other people knowing that all of their
Yeah.
perfectly made plans
Or
don't
it's
work.
not efficient, or, I knew exactly how to get from point A to point B for this weekend, and y'all are messing it up. If you would just follow my plan, we would get there, efficiently and productively, and we'd accomplish a lot.
Now, how does their shame come out sideways, though?
Well, what a lot of these moms said is they're constantly saying in some form or fashion, "Hurry up," to everyone in the family. "Hurry up. Let's go. Hurry up." And, and that is a manifestation that they're anxious,
It's putting the burden on everyone else to come through
that
for
their
them.
goals, their plans, their desire for success, whatever success means in that
Yeah.
moment, isn't gonna be accomplished if people don't hurry up. Well, it's kinda hard when you get a two-year-old that only moves so
They won't.
fast,
They won't.
or personalities that don't move really fast, and
I
I'm
mean,
one
the
of
the
them.
theme here is going to be that children are an invitation from your loving Heavenly Father to deal with your shame.
Yeah, it is
So
so
what's
true.
what's the hope? What's the new direction? What's the invitation for the 3?
Yeah, so for the 3, it's really learning how to authentically connect with their family in those moments. Instead of hustling, directing, making it all about the accomplishments, get down on their level and truly connect with them. Be curious about what's going on, what's
Mhm.
keeping them slowed up, maybe even what their kid wants to do. And they'll find that authentically connecting or being curious with their kids, they're going to actually have a deeper relationship. But more importantly, their kids are going to feel seen and loved for simply being who
Mm.
they are, not what they do.
Alrighty, type 4 is next.
Type fours. Oh, the longing of the four. The fours have this beautiful, I mean, really, it's the same thing as that superwoman that I pictured, but they have their own superwoman, this woman that they're always longing to become. But they look at all the other moms and they're like, "See, I'm lacking. There's something broken, something defective in me. No one understands me. My family doesn't understand
Hmm.
me. These women don't understand me." And so they feel very alone. And so they'll withdraw into their emotions and go deep within. But then they're really struggling with this sense of envy. I want to be an ideal mom, but I'm not.
And how does it come out sideways? How does the family kind of bear the burden of their own shame?
So Usually the emotions, are vast. Now, their emotions can be high and low, but when they get low, they usually withdraw and go internal or can be dramatic. It can kind of go either way. So it can be very moody. And the family doesn't really know what to do with those emotional highs and lows or the push and the pull. And therefore, the mom feels misunderstood all the more.
Mhm. And what's the invitation?
The invitation is first and foremost that God fully understands you and you were not designed with flaws or imperfections. He created you to be the type 4 mom that you are. And that the invitation is to live in the moment in all of your glory and flaws. And that is who God wants you to be right now, trusting that He is helping you to grow in the likeness of Christ in the right timing that He has.
I know one of the things for fours is the theme of introjection, where they
Mm,
internalize messages
mhm,
for themselves, right? And so I would imagine, when circumstances aren't going well, rather than introject, like interpreting it through the lens of your own shame for the
mhm,
four,
mhm.
realizing that no, it's just the beauty's in the messiness.
Yeah. Well, and also we have a good friend who's a 4, and he would really have to capture his thoughts and renew his mind with affirmations, with scripture, whatever was actually true. He had to be diligent in that process.
And matter of fact, I mean, that was part of, even projecting into the future things that could potentially happen,
Yeah.
or conversations or incidences that he had to just kind of really discipline
Yeah,
his
because
own
they'll
thinking.
they'll usually get into some sort of kind of fantasy in their mind of, "Oh, I think they're saying this about me," or "I think they're feeling this about me." And it feels absolutely real to them, but they really probably need to sit down and write out what these feelings and thoughts are that other people are having of them and really double check, "Is this me saying this, or is this actually what's happening and true?"
Alrighty, type 5.
Type 5s. Oh, yeah, I had so much fun talking with type 5 moms. So for them, a lot of times their shame comes from they just want to be left alone, or they need space. Now, they feel very ambivalent about this because the moms that are 5s love being moms, but they internally, what they struggle with is this feeling that they have only so much interactive reserves.
And a child's gonna want all of it.
All of it. They're intrusive. They place a lot of obligations on you. There are always surprises happening. There's nothing predictable. It's loud, it's chaotic. Um, it's truly everything that can be hard for a type 5 parent. But I know one type 5 mom said, "Well, if I know I have the kids from, this time to this time, and then, someone's gonna come and kinda take over and I can get a break, I can be a little bit more all in." Now, a lot of times they struggle with feeling disconnected. They're just kinda getting the job done. But what's really hard is if that person doesn't come through and help, they don't have any more energy. It's like a cell phone battery being at 3% and the person calling saying, "Hey, I can't come and help take the kids."
Yeah,
The parent's like, I don't have anything left. And so a lot of shame can come up because it's like, I need to get away, but yet they still wanna be connected with their
sure.
kids. So there's a lot of that that goes
And
on.
what's the invitation for the 5?
The invitation for the 5 is that it is perfectly fine that you do need space and time alone. I know that a lot of times the 5s are saying they feel guilty of how much space they need, and they're gonna have to be creative in how that comes about, especially differing on their economic status. So if they have money, they might be able to get babysitters or people to help take their kids, do something fun while they take a reprieve. But not everybody has that luxury. So being really creative in how they take the time for themselves without it landing on their family as if they're a burden, they're too
Mhm.
much. They're causing them to feel this way. So it is a fine balance, but their needs are not a problem, and it's good for them to get the help they need.
Great. Type 6.
Type 6s. My mom's a 6.
Nice.
Um, so one of the biggest burdens they have is the constant vigilance of what could happen. And this could be safety, it could be their friendship, the kids' friendships. I mean, it's just a constant barrage of all the things that could go wrong. And so they feel a sense of guilt that either they aren't prepared enough, or they didn't do what needed to be done to prevent
Mhm.
something. And so they can feel a lot of guilt and shame between those 2 things. And so how that can come out is just being very hyper vigilant, asking lots of questions, um, double checking with their kid that they've thought through all the things, and being one of those children, it's exhausting. And part of me was like, because this is a type 9 way of thinking, is like, "Mom, I'm I'll worry about it if I need to worry about it. But right now, it's not here and it may not come. So why would I want to worry about it now if it's not going to even happen?" And I think she just didn't know what to do with that, you know?
It's funny, there's a stoicism, quote that's really popular I forget which guy said it, but it was, "Don't suffer more than's needed,"
Mm.
meaning all worry is pre-suffering.
Yeah.
And you don't even know what it never, as a 6th parent, it never ends the way you think it's going to end,
Mhm.
and when it does happen, you're actually way more prepared than you or thought you
Well,
would
and
be.
you know that I live a lot in that sick space. I
You
was trained very well.
you were trained very well. I mean,
So,
better than me,
now
sometimes.
I do it for the 9 purposes, right? So I'm being worried and hypervigilant of what could go wrong relationally. Like, how can I make everyone happy? But I'm always thinking of the worst case scenarios to prevent that from happening so that we can have the best life together. Um, but I was very well trained in the worst case scenario thinking mentality. And so, that can be something that the type sixes really struggle with.
What's
But
the
the
invitation?
invitation is, well,
Yep.
why don't you say? Because you're a six. What's the invitation for a parent that's a six?
Oh, man. Well, see, you're the expert, so we're talking about moms here, so
I'm sure it's
yeah,
not that much different.
I don't know. I mean, what would be the invitation for me? I would say one of the things that I've come to find is, in Psalm 32, there's this great passage. It says, um, I will counsel you and lead you in the way you should go, and I will lead you," maybe that's what it is, "with my loving eye on you."
Mm,
And what I came to recognize is that when I don't know what I'm going to need, but whenever I need it,
it's there.
it's going to be there.
Yeah.
And I can try to resource myself for all the scenarios that are going to come up in my child's life. And I bought a lot of parenting books. I
Mhm,
read, that's how I identified the type 5 part of my heart,
mhm,
that I just relentlessly ordered, books about being a godly father, a godly husband. And it just put a lot of pressure because I would try then to implement all this stuff, trying to be the best versus just being a grounded, non-anxious presence in my child's life.
mhm. Yeah.
What else have you heard from other sixes?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for the sixes is to rest in the fact that you are gonna be perfectly safe and secure in your Heavenly Father's hands. Like, He knows exactly what's going on. Now, that doesn't mean we're safe. Like, I mean, we live in this sinful world, but ultimately we can rest in His care, and He is God Almighty, and He is there to protect us and our children. He loves us. He loves our children. And that's where we can put our rest and our comfort is in Him.
Mhm. Alrighty, type 7s.
Type sevens. Um, so type sevens, oh man, I remember talking to a type seven mom about this. And, type sevens love the next best thing. Like, what are we going to do next? Like stimulation, excitement. And there's part of that when it comes to being a parent, especially before you become a parent. Oh, this is going to be so great, and I'm so excited. And then it comes and you kind of realize, oh wait, I'm kind of trapped because I need to take care of my child. And
Mhm.
there's of course that I do want to take care of my child, but then there's the other part of them that's like, but I still want to have fun and be independent and um, do what I want to do and be adventurous. But I'm kind of bound to this parent thing now. And so there's this real push and pull within them of how do I remain myself and fun and spontaneous while also kind of bound to this family life, this parenting role that I'm in. And so that can cause a lot of shame because they're feeling like, well, I'm not a loving parent because I want to go and do things outside of being a mom.
Yeah.
Um, and that's just not that I understand why they would feel that way, but that's okay. Like we can be both moms and our unique selves. We can both be at home and care for our kids and be creative of ways for the sevens to have their fun and their adventure. And it may look completely different than what it did before they had kids and what it will look like when they're empty nesters.
Do you ever have you ever worked with a seven mom who like they fear being trapped,
Hmm.
and so if that they're feeling trapped by their child, like,
Hmm.
and then like they just feel so ashamed
Hmm.
that they want some kind of relief.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's the message for them?
That you are a good mom. You are loving your child with the best of what you have to offer, and the best is yet to come for you and for them. And it can look a lot of different ways. And that's what's so great about a 7 is that they can reframe. But what I would suggest to them is to learn what it feels like to be content in the present moment. So
Which is
when
going to be like in that situation a both and like
exactly.
I want to be with my child, and
Yes.
I this is really tough, and which you actually can bring to the relationship to say, I if it's hard for me, imagine what it's like for my child.
Right. And so the savoring of the present moment in all of its aspects. So like you were saying, the feeling trapped, the beauty of new life or the beauty of them growing, maybe they're teenagers now. Like what stage of life it is, there's the both and. It's kind of like when you watched Inside Out. You know, you
Yeah, joy
joy
needed
is
sorrow.
joy was always trying to get rid of sorrow and sadness, but it's what is beautiful is when you embrace all of it.
Yeah.
And so, as a type 7, my invitation for them is to embrace it all, savor it as good, and see the good that comes out of it because so much growth comes out of challenges and sorrows.
Alrighty, type eights.
Type 8s, you know, we were talking to a type 8 um, at a dinner one time, and then another type 8 mom, her and her husband came up and they were so sweet. They were like, "Oh, I love what you do." And I was like, "Oh, that's great." And we just ended up all of us talking about motherhood, and it was so good to hear from her, from this new mom that I just met because she said motherhood was really hard at the beginning because all of my adult life I was in some form of control or I could figure it out. Plow through life, no problem. And then this little child comes and it just threw her for a loop.
Mm,
She the infant is gonna do what the infant's gonna
yeah.
do, and she just didn't know how to remain, quote, unquote, "in control" when things would just go a certain way, and so she felt so much shame that she couldn't figure it out and make it work the
Wow.
way she thought it should work.
Yeah.
And this other type 8 that we were having dinner with was hearing her talk this way, and she said, "I have never talked to anyone about what I felt like as a new mom, and that felt so validating to hear someone else say the exact same things that I experienced when I was a new mom." And it was just so cool to see them talk with each other
Yeah.
and to hear the similar sorrows, the guilt, some of the shame they felt in those early years. And of course, when they get older, there's other things, that we all deal with. But those were the things that they talked about
And
specifically.
what's the invitation?
So the invitation for, the type 8 is it's okay to not always be in control and to be weak and to be vulnerable because he is in control. God knows exactly what's going on. He's not surprised. He's not thrown for a loop. And he is stronger than we are. And it's in our weakness that his grace is abundant and full and that we can lean on to him. And that's really hard for the type 8, but they're going to find so much renewal in the resting, in the letting go, opening their hands in the process, and trusting what God's going to do.
Well, you talked a little bit about your own story as a type nine, but do you want to add anything about nine moms?
Yeah, I would say, I think one of the things that I felt the most sorrow for was that type 9s were looking for peace and stability and harmony, and it's not usually ever there in
Man,
the family unit, as
and
hard
that
as
was
we
a
try.
really bad burden because it. Okay, let me talk personally now. Now we're getting into our stuff. Um, you were always trying to calm me down,
And the kids.
and the kids like
I
it.
mean, to the point where I would put in earplugs because it was like I knew that, like, you would be wrestling with the kids and having fun. And I'm like, "This is so great." Mentally, I'm like, "This is great." And my whole being is like, "Get them to stop.
Yeah.
This isn't okay." And
I love
so
that.
I would put in earplugs to just numb out the noise enough, but I could still hear
Yeah.
so that I could allow you guys to be fully you in a great way and not allow some of the internal struggles that I had to get in the way.
Yeah.
And I felt very guilty for constantly feeling this need to make everyone be quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the invitation?
The invitation that beauty is in the chaos sometimes. Beauty is in the disagreements and the tension of life, the growing from it. And even saying that, I'm like, no, it's not.
How am I saying this?
Like,
That's
no, it's
funny.
not.
Yeah.
But the
We're
other
like
types,
hair club for men. Like we're not only the president, we're also
I
members.
like, no, this cannot be true. But it is. I mean, when you look back at so many things, you can see, wow, so much good and growth came out of that chaotic season or that hard season or that conflictual season. And without it, I wouldn't be who I am today, or they wouldn't be who they are today. And we had to grow through that. And as a nine, honestly, we want everyone to be happy and everyone's okay. There's no issues, there's no problems. But that's just not life. And that's not where growth comes from. And so, but even as I'm saying all this, again, it's really hard. And,
Yes.
and, you know, to all the moms that are listening, and I've talked about your struggles, and then I gave you, hey, but just do this. Hey, it's super
It's really
easy to
hard.
say, and it's really hard when it's you in that moment. And that's okay because there is grace for all of us. It is not about being perfect, it's about being humble, dependent on God, and knowing that He is going to renew and strengthen and help us to grow into the likeness of Christ in the mother He created us to be.
Well, there's a great passage in Isaiah 50, and maybe you've heard us talk about it before, but it says, let him who walks in the dark and has no light trust in the name of the Lord and rely on his God. But all of you who light flames for yourself and set flames ablaze, this is what you'll receive from my hand. You'll lie down in torment. The idea there is that we're stumbling around and we sense the insecurity of the moment, the confusion, the chaos, the uncertainty, and our temptation is to create other behaviors, attitudes, approaches, patterns of thought to eliminate the tension, to eliminate the uncertainty. But that actually creates more uncertainty. It
Mm,
creates more torment.
mm,
Even Paul says this in Colossians chapter 2, where he says, these rules are destined to perish with use. The more that we give ourselves to our tactics according to our types to deal with our shame, the more the shame keeps coming back.
mm,
But the way that Jesus is presented to us in the New Testament is that he's the author and the perfecter of our faith. He's the Alpha, the Omega. He is the perfect representation of
mm,
who God is for us. And so to get outside of ourselves to see Jesus, what do you have for me? What are your promises for me, despite what I may be experiencing for myself, really is the solution. It's not to double down on our own efforts,
yeah.
but it's rather to reflect upon all that God is for us in the person and work of Jesus Christ. Well, this has been,
Yeah.
I want to say it's been fun, but I mean, I hope it's been
We're
helpful.
yeah, we're talking about a really hard topic.
A very
And
hard
like you
topic.
said, we hope that this is really helpful. One, for you to recognize, oh, as a type, whatever you are, I have struggles that the other types from my type, they struggle too. I'm not alone in this. We don't want you to feel alone. Being a mom or a parent is super hard and challenging, and that's okay. You are the mom, the parent that God wanted you to be for your children.
Hey, well, once again, just thank you for pre-ordering the book, and we hope you found this particular special podcast made just for you.
Thanks, guys. Bye bye.
Bye.